so much for joining me this afternoon. And over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to give you a bit of a whirlwind tour of Lewa, the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy, and of course, Lewa Wilderness. So Lewa Wilderness is located in the Laikipia Plateau, which is in the central part of Kenya. And it's a beautiful, beautiful area that twins really well with particularly the Masai Mara. It offers a very, very different safari experience to the Mara. The Mara is more of a kind of quintessential African savanna experience with beautiful, big, open, rolling plains, lots of game, often quite a few vehicles as well, though. And Laikipia is this much more of a kind of immersive safari experience. So it consists of different conservancy and reserves that offer a more kind of getting out the safari vehicle, safari, a different take on a safari experience. So it's all about getting on horseback, getting on camel, doing walking. So it's a more of a wild safari experience, but the two experiences twin so well together. And whenever I hear people going to Kenya and not doing both, it's almost frustrating because you think actually, I mean, there's so much to see in Kenya anyway, but it just works really, really well between the two together. And then as part of this is Laikipia Plateau, so with the different conservancies and the reserves. And then the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy is right on the eastern side. So it's actually one of Kenya's first wildlife conservancies, and it's actually now a UNESCO World Heritage Site as well. The conservancy itself is 65,000 acres, and there's only 5 properties on the conservancy. So you have a very, very different safari experience with someone like the Mara, whereby here it's 380 acres per tourist. So it's all about seeing a lot of game, but seeing hardly any other visitors while you're there. So the 5 properties that are within the conservancy, you have Lewa Wilderness, which is the eastern side of the conservancy. And then you have Lewa House in Karafu House. Karafu House is part of Eliwana. And the Lewa House is nearby there on a beautiful, big, high hill with amazing, amazing views. Lewa Safari Camp is probably the more kind of 4-star kind of product, and that's also owned by Eliwana. And then Sirikoi is tucked down quite near the conservancy headquarters in a more woodland area, which is absolutely beautiful as well. And that's part of, it's also partnered with Rich's Camp as well. It's a sister property to Rich's Camp, so it's owned by the Roberts family. As I mentioned earlier, it's actually Lewa Wilderness's 50th anniversary this year. But the actual Craig family have been on the land for 100 years. So it's a double anniversary celebration. And as you saw from that film, it's very much a family home that is also a safari experience as well. So Will and Emma Craig live there. It's their family home. Whilst they don't host the guests kind of as much as they used to, they're always pottering about. So guests will nearly always meet them. And Will often will come down and sit down with the guests in the evening and not even say who he is. He just likes to kind of, he's a very kind of honest, very kind of charming, but quite shy man who doesn't want to be kind of centre of attention. So he loves just kind of going undercover and just chatting to guests. And it's, very much part of their family home, really. This is the main family house. But actually the main manager now is this amazing Maasai called Karamushu, who has been part of the Lewa Wilderness family for over 20 years, and he is just fantastic. So he runs the property day to day. So that's who your guests will be hosted by, Karamushu and his team. So this is the layout of the lodge. As you can see, very spacious. So you've got the original family house to the right hand side. This area here is the dining area and bar, and it's actually on quite a steep kind of it's like a kind of drop, and it's beautiful river running underneath. And you have a saltwater pool there, tennis court here. There are 9 properties in total, 9 rooms in total, 6 hillside cottages and 3 garden cottages. So the hillside cottages are these ones here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the garden cottages are these ones hidden here. And so the hillside cottages have beautiful views. And again, they're on quite a steep kind of drop. So you have these amazing kind of big views. And the garden rooms are absolutely enormous and have, as the name suggests, more of a kind of lawn in front of them. So they're perfect for families. They're 2 rooms with a sitting and dining area in between. So really good for families or for couples who are traveling together. But there's lots of different areas within the lodge for guests to just find a quiet spot, sit down, have a drink, make themselves at home. We have a bar, obviously, where the bartender always looks after the guests very, very well. and they meet for pre-dinner drinks in this area before setting off. And they used to, before COVID, it actually used to be all hosted dining, where they sit at one big table and eat all together. But actually during COVID, we actually separated the guests out a bit, and actually it's worked really nicely. So now they do a combination of hosted dinners, but also private dinners as well. So if guests wanted to be private, they could do, but actually it's really nice to be a bit sociable. You know, they'd probably do it a couple of days a week where they do hosted dinners as well. Lunch is much more informal. It's more light salads. A lot of the produce, in fact, most of the produce is grown on the farm, which is about 1 kilometre away. And the guests are really encouraged to go down to the farm, see the garden, see how they produce the produce, and it's really delicious seasonal food. So lots of kind of platters and almost ottolenghi style salads and meats and platters, and so it's much more it's a buffet style, lighter at lunchtime, and then dinner is obviously more formal dining. This is a beautiful swimming pool where guests can relax during the day, and for those guys who can't sit still, they have a tennis court and also a newly developed gym, which again has probably one of the best views that a gym has had out looking out over the Wildlife Conservancy. So focusing on the accommodation a bit more, as I mentioned, there are 6 hillside cottages and 3 2-bed family suites. That one below that is 1 family suite, so they're absolutely enormous. These are the rates which are running to the end of 2023, and then we have special offers, and we also have a special offer for next month to celebrate our 50th anniversary, and that's 50% off the fly camping, which is a new addition. Yeah, these are the offers which I'll send through in a follow-up email to you all, so you don't have to worry about remembering them now. So the layout, I briefly went through it earlier, but essentially it's spread over quite a large area. You can see just how far apart the rooms are located through these through the kind of the distances on the pathways. So very, very big and spacious, all designed slightly differently. There's no uniformity here, and they're all designed slightly differently, but they all have these beautiful big, particularly hillside cottages, big verandas, big views, very big and spacious. So if you had a family of 3, we can easily fit an extra bed in there. Although a couple of the hillside cottages are really good for families. One is like 2 levels, so you have 2 beds upstairs and then a big double bed downstairs. But most of the cottages can fit an extra bed in them, but all of them can. But what we tend to do with families is we tend to put them in the garden cottages just because they are that little bit bigger. But they're beautifully designed, lots of wood and thatch, and very, very big and spacious. One of them has a plunge pool, and unfortunately you can't request the cottages in advance because it obviously totally depends on which guests we have coming in and the room layout. So we unfortunately don't allow people to request certain cottages in advance. This is the double layered cottage I was talking about, which is really good for families. And yeah, just beautiful views out looking over the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. Then the garden suites are these ones here. So there are 3 of them, and they are enormous. So that is 1. So 1 bedroom one side, 1 bedroom the other, and then dining sitting room area in the middle. And just, yeah, great spot. I stayed here with my family in October last year, and it's just the most perfect setup for a family. The rooms are very, very big and spacious, so you can easily fit either 2 couples in the suites together, or with a family of 5, and there's plenty of space. But obviously it's all about getting out, and it's all about the game experience. So as I mentioned earlier, Lewa Wildlife Conservancy, it's all about space and privacy and not seeing many other vehicles. There's 380 acres per tourist, so it's a huge amount of land they've set aside for a limited number of guests, and it really has had real success in particularly rhino conservation. So they now have 165 rhinos, split almost 50-50 between black and white. In fact, they've been so successful they've had to move some of the rhinos onto the Barana Conservancy. The rhinos are everywhere. I never thought I'd get blasé about seeing rhino, but they're almost like seeing impala in other reserves. It's just incredible how many rhino there are. And it's amazing how the animals live in total harmony with them. When we were there last year, we saw a mother rhino and baby rhino very, very close to a pride of lion. The baby rhino was getting quite feisty and quite kind of cocky with these lion, who actually were quite terrified of him, so they ran away. So it's that's just an amazing experience in terms of the rhino. Thanks for your question. What I'm going to do is I'll go through the presentation, then I'll go back to any questions that have been asked, and I'll answer them all at the end. Obviously, lots of elephant. This area is a real elephant corridor where they come down from the northern parts of Kenya and they go through Tiki to Mount Kenya. And actually nearby, they've built this amazing elephant corridor underneath the road that gives the elephants access up to the forests of Mount Kenya, which is quite a phenomenal bit of engineering. But just, yeah, phenomenal game, lots of lion, we saw leopard, we saw cheetah kill, incredible birds. And it's just about, you know, having these safari experiences with really no one else around, but in a very different way. So, for example, this is a beautiful old car. They've got horses. They've got over 40 horses at Lewa Wilderness. And actually, if clients are staying at other properties in the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy, they come to Lewa Wilderness to do the horse riding. The Lewa Wilderness guests actually get priority over that. The horses are beautiful. Most of them are ex-polo ponies. They're really, really beautiful, beautiful horses. And what's incredible about horse riding here is because the horses go out to graze with the herds, with the giraffe, the zebra. The animals are so used to them that you can get incredibly close to them. So here you see obviously the animals, the horses very close to the elephant. And they're great for all different standards of accommodation, standards of riding. And then obviously lots of buffalo, and it's just the most beautiful landscape with the backdrop of Mount Kenya wherever you are. After your hard morning's game viewing, it's just stunning to be able to stop for a bush breakfast under the tree with the Mount Kenya as your backdrop. Lewa Wilderness for me works particularly well for couples, but also for families. For me, it's just that where Kenya is just so unique is that incredible element of adventure and I love the insights into life of people living there. So, for example, when I was there with my kids last year, you know, we did so many different things. One of the things they enjoyed most was just bombing around on the Land Cruiser sitting on the roof, going down to the farm, and just having that real kind of free childhood, which so many of the Kenyans do have, is incredible for children to experience. And because they are a family home, and their kids and grandkids have grown up there. They are just brilliant for families. So these are my three kids who were on safari last October doing their camel trekking. But I think one of the most profound experiences that I loved was going to the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy headquarters, and they actively encouraged all guests to go and see the headquarters, because obviously they realise that A, it's education, but also B, it's an important way for them to raise funds to actually be able to give insights into just how much amazing work they do. And they really encourage families in particular to go there. It's only about a 45-minute drive, and it's really, really worth the few hours to spend down there. Well, you were there about an hour really, spending time with the rangers and learning about how they undertake their incredible work within the conservancy. You then obviously got walking safaris. You've got other really cool things for families in particular. There's a beautiful spring, so you can go down and go crabbing in the spring. We were catching these little tiny crabs in the spring, playing with dogs. But also Lewa Wildlife Conservancy is not just about wildlife, it's all about community as well. They support 23 government schools in the area of Lewa, which is 8,000 students they support a year. And they're really, really proud to show the work they do, and the schools are very proud to show the strength of the partnership with the Wildlife Conservancy. And they actively encourage guests to go and see the school, learn about what they're doing, and for them to be able to tell them how the impact of that client's stay will have on the community as well as the wildlife. So as I mentioned right at the start, Laikipia is all about a more immersive safari experience. It's about getting out that safari vehicle and really kind of getting under the skin and doing kind of more adventurous safari experiences. I mentioned about horse riding earlier, but actually one thing that we've launched just in the last year or so is Ride the Wilderness. So this is where you can take it a step further. You can actually go out for a night or 2 nights on a proper horse safari from Lewa, and you have a mobile camp that you get set up with, and it's just the most, because this area we're bordering Ilingrazia in the kind of northern rangelands area. So it's a beautiful, beautiful, massive area of land that we can cover. But even if you're not a kind of experienced rider, just to be able to get up close and personal to the game is phenomenal. So My family, a family of complete novice riders, apart from me, and this is us on the left-hand side getting very, very close to a 5-day-old giraffe. And the mother was totally chilled because she'd been out grazing with the horses just that morning. So you have this very, very incredible personal experience where you get so close to the game, and the rhino. I mean, obviously, the guides are brilliant at only taking probably more experienced guests in close proximity to animals that are slightly more dangerous. So it is very safe. But you've also got camel trekking, and it's just an amazing way of seeing the landscape and also having that game experience. So I mentioned earlier, a lot of the produce is produced on the farm. The farm is about 1 kilometre away from the lodge, and it's down right by the springs. So it's actually a very fertile area because it has all the amazing soil from Mount Kenya, and this incredible water source as well. And they're actually, in the last kind of couple of years, they're really showcasing this more to their guests. So they actually encourage guests to come down to the farm, to have lunch in the farm, to go and see the produce, to pick the produce, and then sit down at this beautiful table and have incredibly fresh produce for lunch. But the farm is also not just about the fruits and veg. It's also, and this is our woodwork workshop. You've also got sheep, you've got bees, it's a really fun place to go and see a kind of behind the scenes experience of how you make a lodge as self-sustainable as possible. Talking about adventure, fly camping is something we've launched just recently as well. So this is a really immersive safari experience. So guests will keep their room at the lodge, and then it's $170 per person per night. That's 50% off we're running at the moment. So it's half that. And it's just quite a simple but really, really beautiful experience for guests to go and just be totally in the wilderness. So that's a really fun and very much growing in popularity experience for guests to do whilst they're there. But I think this photo for me really encapsulates just what Lewa is all about. It's all about big skies, big panoramas, very dramatic landscape, absolute kind of solitude and privacy, which you don't get. It's hard to always find. And this is just one of the spots which is just so incredible for Laikipia and the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. If you've got clients who are keen on walking as well, they obviously do walking safaris from the lodge. But again, a bit like Ride the Wilderness, you can take it a step further. And this Walking Wild is actually run totally by the local community. So they take you out, you stay a night or two out in the bush. They go with camels, they set up your camp, and you can walk north up towards Ilangrazi. You set up a beautiful fly camp overnight. And then you have a very incredible community-led walking experience as well, which is a really, really fun thing to do. And again, I'll send you all the rates in our follow-up email. But really the whole driving factor behind the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy is conservation. It's the reason why it was set up as a conservancy, and they've been hugely successful in their wildlife conservation, in particular the rhinos, and that is why they are a UNESCO World Heritage Site now. But what's really amazing about Lewa Wilderness, and I think particularly compared to other areas of Africa, is how proud they are and how open they are to showing the clients just what they do. I know in other parts of Africa you can pay a huge amount of money to have this real behind the scenes tour, but here they realize it's a very important part of the education and for them to raise funds. So they have different experiences you can do. Obviously I showed you going to the headquarters, but this is also the going out with the sniffer dogs. If you're lucky, if they're doing some notching like this, you can actually go out and experience that as well. But also, in terms of community, as I mentioned, they support 8,000 students per year, but they also support up to 50,000 people in terms of healthcare. So their community reach is absolutely enormous, and it's really important, and it's really educational. It's really incredible to actually see just how much they do behind the scenes. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about their sister property, the sister partner, which is a sister company which is called Lewa Wilderness. So this is their scheduled charter company. So they have different planes. They have their biplane, which is a Wacko plane, but they also have a 206 and a 210, which will do kind of normal charters around Kenya as and when you wanted it. But also in June this year, they've launched a shared executive charter. So this is particularly exciting for those clients coming from the Mara and coming up to Lewa, because previously with the scheduled flights, they only really flew from Laikipia to the Mara, not Mara, Laikipia. And for me, the most natural itinerary would be to start with the Mara, you tick off the big five, you have that kind of quintessential Africa experience, and then you come here and you really appreciate the privacy and the exclusivity. And previously it was always quite hard to do that because of the way the scheduled flights work. But now they have just launched this shared charter from 1st of June, and it can carry 9 packs. It's a beautiful plane, and it's $600 RAC 450 net, flying between the Mara and Lewa, and it's a daily flight. It's been done in conjunction with Scenic Air as well, so you can book either through Air Wilderness or Scenic Air. Beautiful, really comfortable plane. So obviously most caravans take up to 12, this is 9, so they've removed the seats and put bigger seats in there. And they also do other scheduled flights throughout Kenya. So Air Wilderness is an amazing sister company to Lewa Wilderness. And not only that, they also do some very, very cool scenic flights. You can either do one around Mount Kenya, or you can go up to Samburu, or you can go up to Viteti Elephant Orphanage, which is a whole kind of, almost a kind of half day's excursion. And it's only open to guests staying within the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. So it's a really, really cool added bonus. Their biplane is really amazing. Unfortunately, we're still waiting for the license because it's such an unusual plane. It's the only one in East Africa. The Kenya Aviation Authority are taking an age to try and issue the license. They changed the licenses for some reason. Yeah, as you probably know, Africa always loved kind of bureaucracy and red tape, and they changed the licensing, and they are taking a while to issue a license for this biplane because it's so unique. So unfortunately, we can't actually book it at the moment, but hopefully we will be able to book it very soon, and I'll obviously keep you updated on that. But it is quite an amazing experience, and I was very lucky when I was there last year to be able to go up in the plane, and I got a short film which is very noisy to begin with, so hopefully it won't make you jump. So that is the end of the presentation. I've just got a short film I'll show you, but I just wanted to answer the question I got come through. And if you've got any more questions, please let me know. So about could you explain a little more why rooms can't be requested in advance, i.e. family wanting 2 garden rooms but can't pre-request? You can request the garden rooms. The reality is because we do the rooming list, they do the rooming list kind of quite late, depending on various factors. Obviously, some of the rooms are further away, so you have to look at guest kind of mobility. Some are wanting to share, some are not. So agents at the time of booking cannot request the rooms, but obviously you can put in, and it's really useful to know things like mobility, sharing options or anything like that you feel might make a difference on which rooms they want to go into. And obviously if you want a garden room, you can definitely request that, but it's more the fact that the rooming lists are not done until close to the time, so you can't specifically ask for room 9 or whatever it may be. But of the Rosemary and Lydia who work in the reservations are amazing, and so just send through the details of the guests and they'll definitely be able to put them in the best room. And if you prefer to have a certain room, particularly like garden rooms or hillside rooms, then definitely let them know. If you do have any more questions, please pop them into the chat box. I'm just going to show you a short marketing film, which I will send you through a copy of so you can use it for your clients as well. But thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. And we have got our next webinar is on Sausage Tree Camp, which is in 2 weeks' time. But please, as I say, while you're watching this film, do ping through any other questions you may have. So there we go. As is always the case, the webinar has been recorded, so I'll send you through a link to the recording and also a email with lots of other useful information you may need for Lewa Wilderness, including copies of the film and the rates, etc. But thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. Hope to see you at the next webinar, which will be 2 weeks today, and that's on Sausage Tree Camp in Lewa Zambezi in Zambia. Thanks so much.